Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Kagam, and I'd like to welcome everyone here to Be Your Own Hero. I'm a stage 4 prostate, bone, and lung cancer patient slash survivor. Been dealing with cancer since early 2021 and doing very well. And I am so excited for our weather here and for the change of seasons. It is fall here in Texas, and we're having absolutely exquisite weather, which is uh, rare. We've had a really, really nice summer, and we've only had like 2 or 3 days over 100, so it's been absolutely spectacular summer and into fall, and looking forward to finishing off the rest of the year in a spectacular fashion. I am so excited to have an incredible person here, and her name is Kelli Callahan, and she's from the great state of Idaho. And so I want to bring Kelli on. Kelli, please introduce yourself and let's get into this very, very important topic that you're going to discuss. Kelli Callahan.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Mark, thank you so much for having me. I am so grateful that I get to share a little bit about what I do today because more people need to know. So again, my name is Kelli Callahan. I am in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, clear up north in the panhandle of Idaho. The weather's getting chilly up here and probably a bit colder than you are down there. We built our first fire in our wood stove last week. Um, anyway, let me just tell you a little bit about me, how I got started. And today we're going to talk about thermography, how I got started with my thermography business. And then we'll get started with information and learning about thermography. But I used to own a fast food restaurant. And so we had a daughter at the time who was having some pretty severe health challenges. She was very ill, and we had gone from doctor to doctor to doctor, trying to figure out what was wrong with her. And honestly, she just kept getting sicker and sicker. And I had met a chiropractor who said,
How old was she, by the way?
so this started when she was in, I think, ninth grade. So she was around 14, 15 years old. I'd met a chiropractor well, she was getting ready to go to college. She wanted to be a nurse, and I couldn't send her away because she was so sick. And so I'd met this chiropractor. The chiropractor said, I can help your daughter. And I thought, you're a chiropractor. What do you mean you can help my daughter? We've been to all these doctors. Nobody can help her. And she's getting ready to graduate from high school, go to college, and I bit the bullet. I'm like, okay, I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what else to do. So we went and saw this chiropractor who, I kid you not, within 30 days with diet, nutrition, chiropractic care, her life changed. She was 80% better in that 30 days. And off she went to college. She's going to be a nurse. And she went off to college and she came home that first year and she said, "Oh, I don't want to be a nurse. I want to be a chiropractor." So we switched gears and off she went to chiropractic school. Now she's a practicing doctor of chiropractic. Amazing. Well, through that began my journey. I was learning about health, nutrition, diet. Like I said, I owned a fast food restaurant at the time. And I started to kind of have this crisis of conscience. I was serving this food that wasn't serving people and keeping them healthy. And so I was again having this crisis of conscience. About that time, my mother had a very serious stroke. And I became her full-time caregiver, but I started looking into, was there something we could have done to catch this or stop it? And I came across thermography and I thought, wow, this is really, really cool technology. And I put it aside. I cared for my mother for another year and a half until she passed away. Came back to thermography. Oh, wait, back up just a second. I shut down my restaurant. The crisis of conscience I was having, I did not want to continue to feed that food to people. So I just shut it down and moved forward from there. Cared for my mom after she passed away.
Let me pause you right there. What you just did was just, and I've heard this story before, is unbelievable, really unbelievable. Because I would say 99 people out of 100 would have sold the restaurant. And you chose to just close it down because it went against your personal principles. So I just want to point that out that that is absolutely. I commend you for that. I mean, absolutely commend you. That is just I know that not everybody could, has the wherewithal to be able to do that, but that is truly special. So I just am so impressed with that.
Yeah. Well, we did in the beginning, we were trying to sell the restaurant and I eventually got to a point, no, no, we just can't do it. And that came down to that continuous crisis of conscience I was having. It was very severe, deep. Anyway, sold the restaurant, took care of my mom, came back to thermography after she passed away and started learning more about the technology. I started calling thermographers from one side of the country to the other, asking them questions, learning about equipment, learning about the best interpreters. And then I just dove in and opened my thermography business. So that's been about 5 years ago that I opened up. I've been in practice for 5 years now, and I am absolutely in love with this technology and what it does. Mostly I do breast imaging, but I also do full body and I've imaged children, men, women. I've imaged just the whole gamut of things, different kinds of looking for it's oftentimes just a piece to the puzzle when we're doing something besides breast thermography. But since it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we're really going to focus on breast cancer or breast thermography. And I like to say, instead of breast cancer awareness, we are all aware of breast cancer. I like to say breast cancer prevention because thermography is a very, very preventative modality for finding breast cancers or precursors to it. So that's kind of where I come from and who I am.
That is truly awesome. So why don't we get into your presentation? We're going to do a screen share, and so that people could see your full presentation.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Can you see it?
Yes, I can.
Okay, let me see if I can make that go away. Whoops. Sorry, went backwards there. We practiced this, Mark. Your screen is paused. Stop share. Try again. There we go. Okay.
All good?
All good. I think so. Okay. So, breast cancer. So, I like to say for thermography that breast wellness or breast cancer prevention is the best cure. And so, today we're going to talk about breast thermography and what it is, how it works, all of that stuff. And first, I want to talk about the 5 different types of breast imaging. Oh, it's not. There we go. So, there's 5 different methods, main methods of breast screenings. So first we have the breast MRI. And the breast MRI, I'm going to kind of go through the positives and negatives, just the different things about all of these. So breast MRIs, number one, they're expensive. And there's a high false positive outcome with breast MRIs. Breast MRIs are mostly used when there's a known breast cancer present after several other breast tests have already been done. One of the things with breast MRIs is it uses a contrast dye called gadolinium, and gadolinium is a heavy metal and it's toxic. This dye can stay in your system for days, weeks, even years, and there can be pretty severe side effects from that. So that's the breast MRI. Next, we have the standard of care, the mammogram, and the mammogram looks more at the structure or the anatomy of the breast. Mammograms use radiation. Now, this is a quote from the British Journal of Radiology. It says, low energy X-ray radiation from mammograms cause DNA damage and may result in increased risk of breast cancer. That radiation is concentrated on the very delicate breast tissue. There's compression. Oftentimes it can be painful. And it can miss up to 30% of breast cancers. Now, mammograms can actually miss up to 40% of tumors in women with dense breast tissue. So there's no contrast between that dense breast tissue and a tumor. It sees that dense tissue as white and a tumor is also white. It's like trying to find a golf ball in a snowstorm. So they've just started actually telling people if they have, or women, if they have dense breast tissue and that mammograms are not the best breast test. But again, mammograms are still that standard of care. By the time breast cancer is detected on a mammogram, a woman will have already had the disease on average 6 to 8 years. So mammograms are actually looking for a cancer tumor that has developed already. And next we have the breast ultrasound. Now, the breast ultrasound also looks at the structure or the anatomy of the breast. It uses high frequency sound waves that are then converted into an image. Mammograms, or excuse me, ultrasounds are a good breast test for women with dense breast tissue because it does see a contrast there. So it still sees that dense tissue as white, but a tumor is going to be black. So there at least is a contrast there. So much better breast test as far as structural goes for women with dense or fibrocystic breasts. And let's see, but again, ultrasounds are again looking for a tumor that's already developed. So that breast cancer has been growing on average for 6 to 8 years by the time it is detected by a breast ultrasound. And next, we have a physical breast exam. So, physical breast exams should be performed by a doctor, a nurse, or a Mammocare certified practitioner. Of course, doing self exams are important too, because 43% of breast cancers are self detected. It is very important to touch your breast. A physical self exam should not be painful. And women should know that after the age of 60, you have to ask your doctor to continue to perform this exam. They kind of stop doing it after the age of 60. So make sure you're still asking your doctor to do that. And so when I say that 43% of breast cancers are self-detected, again, it's very important to know what I call the landscape of your breasts. If you have fibrous breasts or dense breast tissue, your breasts may feel lumpy, but you need to know this is a lumpy area that's always there. It's part of that density. There are changes that happen that would alert you to something going on. So knowing again the landscape of your breast, important. And then last but not least, we have breast thermography. So thermography looks more at the physiology or how the breast is functioning. Um, so thermography, so thermo is map or heat and graphy is map. So we get a heat map. I like to call it your breast print. We all have a unique breast print, just like a fingerprint. And with thermography, we can see the very first changes, again, on average, 6 to 8 years. I like to say 2 to 15 years because that really is what we're seeing. Some cancers are fast growing, some cancers are slow growing, and we're seeing those very first changes. Thermography alerts us to those changes and indicate early stages of breast disease. So early preventative stages of breast disease. So where we see abnormal heat patterns or some of the earliest signs of a developing cancer. And we really are able to take a good look at the vascularity. Thermography is non-invasive. There's no pain, there's no radiation, and there are no side effects. So it is a very, very safe breast imaging. So we're going to look at a few of thermograms here. So we get what's called a risk rating. It's a risk rating for developing breast disease or breast cancer in the future. So this is what we call a low risk thermogram. We're looking for symmetry. Remember, we're looking for the physiology, how the breast is functioning. So symmetry is what we look for. We want to see both breasts looking the same. We never see breast cancer in the same exact spot on both breasts. So blue is a cool color. You'll see down at the bottom of that color image is our little rainbow of colors. Black is the coldest. It goes up into the blues, greens, yellow, orange, red, and white is the hottest. So I like to say blue boobs are best. This is what we call a low risk thermogram. Her breasts are very symmetrical. Now, this, on the other hand, is a high risk thermogram. So we are not seeing that symmetry. Here in her right breast, we are seeing all of that chaos. We can see right here. And we're also looking for unusual blood vessel patterns. Now, these unusual blood vessel patterns are these sharp points that we see here. And then we also see it at the top coming down like this. And then we see it enclosing here. So we see it kind of encircling. So this is what we call a high risk thermogram because we're seeing both of those things. And high risk, again, there's all of this chaos happening. This is angiogenesis beginning. So it's developing cancer. It starts to pull in those blood vessels. That's those sharp points that we see kind of coming together. And then the vessels dilate. Where there's dilated blood vessels, there's more blood flow. Where there's more blood flow, there's more heat. So this is what we call a high risk thermogram. Now, I always like to look at things in color and in black and white. So here we have another example of a high risk thermogram. So in the color over here, we see this unusual blood vessel pattern right here. But come over here to this black and white one, and you can really see where those sharp points are coming together. So this is the area of concern. So a high-risk thermogram does not always mean that there's breast cancer developing. Remember, we're very preventative. We're seeing those very first changes happening in the breast early, early on. So in fact, this woman here does not have breast cancer. From here, she went immediately to an ultrasound just to check out these results and no concerns of a tumor or a breast cancer. So we just keep a close eye on her to make sure that there's nothing developing, that we're not seeing blood vessel patterns changing, and that we're not seeing increasing heat in these areas. So breast cancer cells on average double in size every 90 days. So in 90 days, we have two cells. If you go all the way down there to 5 years, there's over 1 million cells there, and it's still undetectable by a mammogram at this point. When we get down to 8 years, there's over 4,294,000,000 cells. It's doubled in size 32 times. And at this point, it's normally detectable by a mammogram or an ultrasound. A tumor would be about a centimeter in size. So this is why we say that thermography is very, very preventative because we can see those early, early stages, on average, 6 to 8 years. So now I want to talk about the causes of breast cancer. So we're going to kind of do this in two different sides. We're going to start with Cancer Treatment Centers of America. So these are this is the medical side and what they say causes breast cancer. And we're just going to go through these things. So we have obesity and estrogen dominance. So any cancer risk increases with obesity. And these two kind of go together as estrogen tends to hang out in the fatty tissue of our breast. It's important to keep the liver working properly to help metabolize the estrogen out of the body. And there's supplements to help do this, help this process along. Eating more cruciferous vegetables are helpful. Also, broccoli, cauliflower, kale, Brussels sprouts, those types of things has a compound in it that is sulforaphane, it's called, that helps to kind of metabolize that estrogen out. And then, of course, heavy alcohol use. It's important to abstain or to drink alcohol in moderation. Smoking, a sedentary lifestyle. It's important to move your body intentionally. Women who did not have children or had their first child after the age of 35. Early menstruation or late menopause. Women who did not breastfeed. Birth control, history of birth control use, or postmenopausal hormone replacement, HRT, very popular nowadays. And then any radiation exposure, including mammograms. Now remember, this is from the medical community who uses mammograms as standard of care. DES exposure. So this was a drug that was used from 1940 to 1971 to prevent miscarriage. Now, coincidentally, we think, well, oh gosh, I'm not that old. I never used that. But if your mom or grandma, anybody used that, they have found that even those toxins that are coming from our grandparents are being passed down as a newborn baby through that umbilical cord blood. So this is still important. And then family history. for a family history of breast cancer. Now let's talk about what the naturopathic practitioners with the natural side say are the causes of breast cancer. Some of these are going to surprise you. Untreated codependency, pathological niceness, repressed emotions, high levels of environmental toxins and heavy metals. You can get online and you can Google anything you don't want. We'll just use breast cancer, and then put heavy metals and toxins after it, and you are going to come up with a plethora of information that is a cause of breast cancer. And nutritional deficiencies. Our soils are depleted of the nutrients and the minerals. Therefore, our food is depleted as well. So it's important for supplementation. This is the one thing that both communities agree on: overexposure to radiation, including mammograms. Compromised immune function. So making sure that your immune system is in optimal working order, you're having a healthy gut, making sure your liver's working properly, your kidneys, having regular bowel movements. It's incredible. Um, Today, so many people are dealing with issues with bowel movements. And then detoxifying is so important also to heal your body. And then an extreme lack of self-care coupled with the habits of taking care of everyone else instead of yourself. So let's talk about that for a minute. I talk about my top 5 breast health tips, and my number one healthcare tip is self-care. Are you taking care of yourself? What are you doing for you? And self-care is something that I identify as when you wake up in the morning and you're giddy and you're excited and you can hardly wait to go do something. It brings you joy. That is what self-care is. So, what is self-care? So, the Webster Dictionary defines it as the practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health, the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being, happiness, and in particular periods of stress. And then expressing oneself is also an essential form of self-care, being able to sit with yourself long enough to feel those emotions and process them. So again, my definition of self-care are any activities that we do every day that fill our emotional tank. So these are things that you cannot wait to do. I love to, I can't wait to go, make you giddy, excited. And for women, we're usually pretty happy if our emotional tank is filled up every day. And when there's nothing in the tank, we are not able to be compassionate, fun, creative, loving, and joyful. So it is our job to fill up that tank. So what can some of these things look like for women? Taking a hot bath or a nap, spending time in your garden, engaging in any art, craft, or hobby, playing with a beloved pet, reading a chapter from a great book and spending time in taking a walk, spending time in nature, and reading a chapter from a great book. And then I think it's important to sing, dance, whistle, skip, and to laugh. Laughter is so healing and important for our bodies. So journaling, prayer, meditation, talking with a friend, counseling, kickboxing, weeping. Women who have breast cancer have a few things in common. They have no self-care and they're stuffing painful emotions instead of processing them. So that brings me to part 2 of self-care, and that is sitting with yourself long enough to stop and feel those emotions and process them out of your body. So I'm talking about things like unforgiveness, stress, resentment, traumas, past or present traumas, those types of things. And this is a bit more challenging because, again, we don't usually sit with ourselves long enough to feel these emotions and work through them. But it is essential that we locate, identify, and process them out of the body. So this is where journaling, prayer, talk therapy, counseling, these are just a few of the ways to help work through these things. For me, journaling is a very, very powerful tool. But some women I know, they will do intense physical activity, running, kickboxing, hitting a pillow. I know one woman who collects flat rocks and then she'll take a Sharpie and she'll write on that rock whatever it is that has been her stress for the week. And then she goes out to our beautiful lake and she throws those rocks into the lake. So it's kind of like a letting go ritual for her of letting go of that stuff. Important to get it out of her, and that's what she is doing. So be creative in how you process these emotions. So again, journaling, art therapy, rigorous physical exercise, weeping and crying are so important to really get those things out. Therapy, professional resources, or even just talking to a trusted friend. There are 12-step groups that are marvelous. And then, of course, prayer and meditation, prayer number one for me. And then letting go rituals like shredding, burning, throwing rocks, those types of things. Now, this is a quote from a naturopathic doctor, and this is really interesting. So he says negative emotions will feed cancer and can increase tumor markers by up to 200 points per day. Failure to let go of hate, anger, hostility, resentment, and past pain will ultimately kill someone. He goes on to say, during 2 years of my practice, I treated 21 women with breast cancer. 17 of them were in highly dysfunctional relationships and held enormous anger and resentment toward their current partners. The women who stayed in their negative relationships, even though they were doing all of my other protocols, all died within 6 months of treatment. And the women who were willing to deal with their relation or to heal their relationships or got a divorce are still alive and well today. I just find that extremely, extremely powerful. So again, self-care is my number one breast health tip for people. And then also releasing those emotions, getting them out of you. They tend to take up residence right in our breast tissue. God gave us our breasts for nurturing. And so we need to take care of them. So taking care of the girls, remembering, I like to tell women to do a breast massage as opposed to a breast self-check. When you're doing a breast massage, you're taking care of the girls, and there are tons that you can look up online how to do a breast massage. 43% of breast cancers are self-detected. So that is, again, a very, very important, important part.
I have I have a question.
Yeah.
Your thermography images that you had, I should have paused you at that particular time so people could see. So you showed the breasts that are blue, but around them, in above and below, were yellow areas.
Yeah.
How do you explain that?
Yeah, I'd love to explain that. So here, right here particularly, here's your carotid artery. I don't want to see that blue. I want to see that red or even white because that's where there's blood flow. When I do breast imaging, I always go up with my camera just a little bit so I can see a couple of things. Number one, I'm making sure that we've got blood flow here. If I see one side that's a cooler, I'm going to say, I think you need to go to the hospital right now. We did image a woman one time, and 2 days later, she had a stroke, and we could see. So this is why I do that imaging, because I didn't do it in the beginning. But we went back and looked at her images, and I had just enough of that area to notice, to see that on her. And so now I always look at that. I also am looking here through the dental area and sinuses. If I'm seeing, say, your right side of your face is completely red, what's going on? Because we're very cool on this side. There's some sort of an infection or something causing that heat. What is causing that inflammation? And I have sent women in for dental imaging. And one woman actually, she had breast cancer. She'd had a double mastectomy. That is the only thing she had done. So she had no breast tissue left. But we continued to monitor because she had one lymph node that just would not resolve. And it was always lit up. We did the full, what we call cranial thyroid, and it came back with the report said that there were inflammation in all four areas where the wisdom teeth were. Well, she'd had her wisdom teeth removed 30 years ago. From that, we sent her over to a biological dentist who did imaging and found cavitations in three of the four areas where she'd had those, no pain, no pain. But three of the four where she'd had her wisdom teeth removed 30 years ago, she went through a surgery to have all of that infection cleaned out. And this resolved within 6 months.
Wow.
The lymph node resolved within 6 months. So there's a correlation. They say there's not, but I know there is.
I know, and I've talked to a good friend of mine from college. He's a biocompatible dent. He just retired actually. He had a biocompatible practice for 30 something years. And a couple of things that I'd like to bring up is he always wanted people. In fact, I did it myself personally. I had a root canal done, freshly done, in fact. And he said, "You had a root canal done?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Man, you should get that taken care of. So you should take it out." And so I did. I did, and it actually found a hidden problem. What had happened was is one of the tools that the surgeon used, it broke off and it lodged in that space. And then he did the root canal. And so I was very fortunate that I had it removed because we were able to get that part of the tool, which would have just caused all kinds of havoc down the road. So I think one of the most important things about the mouth is that it can lead to so many different types of quick growing cancers. So if you could talk about that and how it relates to thermography, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm not a dentist, but I can talk about a little bit about what I have seen. So again, the community does not make claims that this is a something that can cause cancers. But I see it over and over again how that infection. So here we have lymph nodes everywhere coming down, right? And our lymph nodes are there to help pull out and take care of the infections in our body. So when I'm seeing heat in these areas, if there's certain patterns that we're looking for that kind of show us that lymph is having an issue. Um, then we just kind of automatically go to, because we can see it in those areas, we automatically go to that. Well, I again see over and over again when we got some dental stuff, because I'm not doing just breast imaging. I'm doing full body imaging. We're looking at thyroid. We're looking at so many different things. And people come to me and they're like, I have been from doctor to doctor to doctor. Nobody can figure out what's wrong with me. And everybody thinks I'm crazy. Can you help me? And I hear that quite often. And that is where we can get that piece, that last piece to the puzzle that might give them a direction to go with a practitioner. I'm not a doctor, I'm a technician, but this information that we get with thermal imaging is so important for those pieces to the puzzle because it's hidden stuff. Nobody sees heat right there. You don't see heat. Nobody sees heat in the breast tissue, but we do. And it shows us precursors to things that are happening, could begin to happen, or that are pretty severe at the time. Um, Even so, I can't see deep into the body. But if I've got somebody, say we're doing full body imaging and we're looking at the area of the liver, and we see a lot of inflammation in that area. So the report from the doctor might come back and say something to this effect. We are seeing heat in the anatomical area of the liver. It could indicate that there is some liver dysfunction. You should go for further testing. Now, if your liver's down there and it's waving the white flag, help, I'm sick, we're going to see that inflammation come up. Same with gallbladder, kidney, all of those things. We'll see that inflammation coming up towards the surface of the skin, but I can't see your liver. I can't see that deep. So, but as far as back to the dental, I mean, heart disease, so many things are absolutely correlated to the teeth. If you've got infection in your body anywhere, it's causing inflammation. It's going to affect your body. Period. Period. And just briefly, I want to back up just a moment, Mark, because you asked about the heat that we're seeing here. So there are areas that I always see heat. So again, it's here in the neck, sometimes in the shoulders. We tend to carry a lot of our stress here in the shoulders, and so there's tense. We can see that. Under the arms, we always see heat, and underneath the breasts as well, because that skin to skin contact there, anywhere there's skin to skin contact, we're going to see heat. If you did this right before imaging, I'm going to see your handprint. That's how sensitive my camera is. If you did this, I will see that. That's how sensitive my camera is.
Wow, it seems to me that this is a untapped resource, thermography, as far as locating any kind of disease in the body. Am I right or wrong, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yes and no. And a lot of it depends. So I do work with some athletes that are training, and before they're going out for a big run or whatever event they're going for, we'll do some imaging on them to see, they've been training, training, training. They're not having pain here or there, but we're seeing inflammation in that left ankle or, the right calf, whatever it is. So maybe there's no pain there, but we're seeing that something's not right. Maybe you're running wrong or whatever, so they can correct that so they don't have an injury when they're in their competition. So thermography is incredible technology to pick up incredible things, but it's not diagnostic in any way, shape, or form. So I never tell women you shouldn't do any other type of breast test. Thermography is the only thing you should do. Well, the reality is there's no breast test that's 100% accurate. None of them are. A mammogram isn't, an ultrasound, and none of them are 100% accurate. You should always do two types of breast tests. And for me, I do my thermogram every 6 months to a year, but then I do an ultrasound every 2 to 3 years because I want that structural test as well. There's no breast test that's 100% accurate. So again, going back to, full body, seeing other diseases, sometimes it can be a piece to the puzzle. And then other times you're going to see absolutely nothing. Your body looks fantastic. Well, but I've got these things going on. Well, it might send us that piece to the puzzle to go for further testing in some particular area.
I'm so fascinated by all of this. Um, I'm fascinated. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I graduated with a biology degree, and so I'm familiar with, a lot of things that's going on in the biological world, and it makes sense, and it just brings back memories because I rarely, well, I'm using it more now, but
Yeah.
to actually learn about the new technology is just absolutely fantastic. And what you're doing is amazing, absolutely amazing. So why don't you share with us your information right here and also, share with us about how people can reach out to you and get involved with thermography.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am, again, I love what I do. So I am more than happy to talk to people if they want to give me a call. Maybe they're across the country and they're looking for a thermographer. I'm happy to help you do a little search, tell you exactly kind of things to look for when you're doing thermography. You want to find a thermographer that is there's a couple of things that are really important. Number one, that the room is stable, that you're walking into a room that's cool and it's stable. If you're walking into a room that's 80 degrees, that's not going to work. So that's there's stability in the room. You're going to want to find somebody who has what we call pre-imaging protocols to follow. So things that would increase your heat before you come in for imaging. You shouldn't, I tell people don't have caffeine 2 hours before coming to see me because caffeine can dilate the blood vessels. Dilated blood vessels causes more blood flow. More blood flow is obviously going to cause more heat. So you want to find somebody who has those protocols in order. So those are a couple of questions to ask them. But again, I'm happy to talk to people if they want to call me and I can kind of send them in a direction. I do know a lot of thermographers across the country. There's not a lot of us out there. If somebody's interested in thermography, maybe wants to start a thermography clinic somewhere, I'm also more than happy to talk to you and help you in a direction for that with equipment and doctors and that kind of stuff. And you can reach me. My website is thermographynorthwest.com. Or you can reach out. I'm happy to and my all of my information's on my website. So thermographynorthwest.com.
we'll put this in the description so that it'll be right there for you. And if you don't still have it from there, you could reach out to me or reach out to Kelly. Uh, I'll be happy to provide the information, Kelly's information for you. So, what would be your final thoughts that you would like to leave everybody about what you do?
Well, let's say this, there's not enough of us in the country. So if somebody's watching this and they're like, wow, I just would love to learn more, please reach out. I'm happy to share information with you. Let's get some more people out there doing this and working with this wonderful technology. And then the other thing I'd like to share with people, I love what I do because I get to help people. Now, if you have that heart that you like to help people, then this really is something that maybe you would be interested in doing because it's not just about thermography. When women come to see me, remember we talked about that self-care portion and the second part of it, the grief and the trauma. Here's when I talk about my 5 top breast health tips and I get to that portion, I get a couple of things. I either get a blank stare, self-care, what does that mean? How can I do that? I have work, I have kids, I have a husband, I have all of these things. How can I take care of myself? Or they burst into tears, literally just burst into tears. And so it's a matter of education and talking to women because I want people to walk out of here feeling like they got more than their money's worth, that they got love. They might have gotten a prayer before they walked out the door, and then being able to stay in touch with them and work with them. I want everybody to feel like they walked in here and got more than they bargained for. In other words, I just love on people because that's who I am. Um, but the other thing, when we're talking about breast health, just remember there's no breast test that's 100% accurate. And we're seeing more and more women, younger women with breast cancer. And because mammograms aren't recommended until after 40, there's no breast test. I can start imaging when women are 20 years old. And then we get that breast print that we talked about. And we have kind of a baseline moving forward to see if there's any changes, anything different happening. So more than one breast test, please.
I have one final question for you, Kelly, and then we're going to close out this interview. If you had a superpower and you could do whatever you needed to do, how would you make the world a better place?
Mm. I think I would teach people. I love to teach and I love to educate, but I think I would teach people the power of listening, the power of being quiet and just listening to what's going on in somebody else's life can be life-changing for people. I think that would be, I think that's a superpower, listening. And I think I would try to educate people more on that.
Wow, I didn't expect that. That's a phenomenal answer. Let me say this before we close out. I mean, what you just heard from Kelly, she is an absolutely genuine person and it's just such a beautiful, beautiful soul. And what she said here, take it to heart because she's the real deal, without a question. And so thank you so much for sharing with us about your business, about your how you came into thermography. And thank you for doing what you do because that's an important, very, very important role that you have assumed and good luck to you. And may thermography as an industry grow. And I hope that you're at the head of that situation. So thank you very much, Kelly.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me. And I just pray that this goes out to many, many people and lives are changed.
Very good, very good. Thank you so much. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you out here who watched us today. Uh, I hope that you make the most out of your life, make the most out of each and every day, each and every hour, each and every minute, and each and every second. Here's your commercial. Please like, subscribe, make a comment in the comment section of the video, and absolutely be thankful for this beautiful thing we call life. because it is precious. And people like Kelly help preserve a life and enhance life, and I hope you do as well. So make the most out of your week. Have a fantastic week, and we will see you hopefully next week on To Be Your Own Hero. Thank you very much.